This is an E46 M3. Everything was done in-house. Back in the old days when they actually taught you some stuff in schools, in the streets of South Philly, everything from oil pumps to engine bearings, automatic transmissions. Like this is a wide-body E46 M3. We are a made in USA and build it as best as we can build it type of company. I was born in Lebanon, actually. There was a little pause in the war and I wanted to go back and visit family. But you're in the mountains working the pedals, trying not to stall it. Here's some of our customers over the years. So we built the first E46 in racing anywhere on the planet. It's a supercharged, like 600 horsepower, but it has the M3 engine in it. Unfortunately, a big branch came down right across the windshield when I was driving. And for me, it was that Sony radio I had in that old 442 and playing Dire Straits.
All right, guys, so I am here in Philadelphia with Tony from VAC Motorsports. They make BMWs go fast. We're gonna start out here in Philly, and then we're gonna end up over at their machine shop in New Jersey. We might make it a two-part because there's a lot of history here, but we're excited to get into this because they make some cool stuff.
VAC Motorsports is a BMW-centric company. Although we do other types of work, really our focus is BMW performance and upgrades. So we kind of take BMW, they make a great car, and our job is to make it better and make it more track-worthy, make it more reliable. That's really our big focus, and it focuses on everything BMW. So sometimes it's suspension, it's engine, transmission, whatever it is that needs to be improved, we get into. We're not limited to one part of that car. VAC started as Verna's auto body. It was like June of 1984, so we are like 40 plus years into it now. And this is where it started. We have the frame machine, and you have, the office back there was actually way smaller than what that office is right now. But that's, I think, about 2,200 square feet is where we started. And I was actually a mechanic before a body guy, and then I had to learn body work and then got into it. But, as I'm not shy to say, I bore easily. And so then I couldn't imagine myself just, straightening chassis or beating out dents or, sanding and painting for the rest of my life. So we added the mechanical part back into it again. And that's when we changed the name to Verna's Auto Clinic. So we did that for a while, and then we got into the racing and the motorsports, and then, Verna's Auto Clinic wasn't very sexy, and it was also too long to really show on a car. So that's when the acronym, and it was really the early days of acronyms, so we just made it VAC Motorsports.
You got plenty of BMWs around here.
Yeah, we get that comment a lot. I have people that freak out. If we go through the lot, we can go through the street, into the lot, into the race lot. There's even more over there. So over here, this is the general service shop. And this is actually the real original Verna's auto body. This is when Lou Verna owned it. And so for people that are familiar with the old brand, like Ditzler was a very popular paint brand here in the States. When we went to the clinic, when we added the service and we called it clinic, that became our logo for a while. We had a good customer at the time who was a designer, and she had a 2002, so we did her 2002 service and all that stuff, and she's like, well, your logo is pretty kind of boring. Let me do one for you. And she did that logo, and that became the go-to logo for a while. Eventually, like I said, when it became VAC Motorsports, there's probably a picture somewhere where I could show you that one. The next iteration of the VAC Motorsports was like the BMW Motorsport flag. And that's where that came from. And we ran with that for a while. And then eventually we said, all right, let's simplify it, clean it up. And this is where we ended up with this guy.
So how did you end up focusing on BMWs? Was that just kind of your favorite cars, or what's the deal there?
So, if I take you back to that one, it's pretty interesting, because back in the old days when they actually taught you some stuff in schools, and they spoke about, tech, and they wanted to teach people trades. I went to Central High in Philadelphia, and before that I was in Masterman. And so at Masterman, we used to do home economics classes, we used to do printing classes. So in one of the typesetting classes for printing press, you had to set all the fonts. You had to take each letter and kind of set it that way. So the teacher at the time goes, I want everybody go grab a magazine, and I want you to find your favorite ad. And so I grabbed a car magazine, and I started flipping through, and then I got to my ad, and it was the BMW 2002, the ultimate driving machine. So that was probably the age of 12 or 13. But before that, my dad had a repair shop and started taking me to the repair shop with him when I was 8 years old. So started learning heavy-duty mechanical work at an early age.
So
and
that's
kind of
big trucks and stuff?
Well, when I say heavy-duty, it meant like engine building.
Okay.
And he was pretty good with everything, but we did American cars, but we also did some European cars like Fiats and other stuff. So it was a good mix of cars. When he eventually, he hurt his back, he shut it down when I was about 13. Then he got into the restaurant business. I continued to service cars in the street and do, car repairs for friends in the street, Chevy Novas and Ford, and whatever else. Did everything from in the streets of South Philly, everything from oil pumps to engine bearings to whatever, automatic transmissions. But I used to do that stuff on my back, so now we have luxuries.
Yeah, you didn't have any of these lifts in the streets, right?
No. But that's kind of the history, how far it dates back for me. So, without dating myself, I mean, I was 8 years old when I started. The shop's been around for 40 plus years. I opened it when I was 19.
Do some math and figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So you found that ad for the BMWs and you just kind of fell in love with the BMWs, or did you
I kind
ride
of fell
in
in
the
love. Yeah, well, there you go. There's always something to build onto. So I'm Lebanese heritage, Lebanese background. I was born in Lebanon, actually.
Oh, cool.
So technically, I'm an immigrant. So in 1980, there was a little pause in the war, and I wanted to go back and visit family. When I got there, one of my favorite uncles had a repair shop, and guess what he worked on? BMWs. A couple other of my uncles on my father's side had BMWs, because BMW and Mercedes were like really the two main German cars in Lebanon.
Right. You probably didn't have a lot of Fords and Chevys over there, right?
No, not then, very little. It was more of a European market, and the Mercedes were always known as more of a taxi cab type of car in Europe for a lot of those guys. But yeah, there was BMW 2500, BMW 2800, which in this country here they call them 3.0s, or Bavarias for a while. So it was the four-door sedan. And they had a very distinct ring when you closed the door, a very distinct ring when that happened. And and then I could picture that transmission whine, the manual transmission whine, and that engine roar. So that's it, you see something you like, you start to ride in it. The leather was amazing in those cars back then. It was like, oh my God, look how nice these cars are. You come back to the States and like, what's a BMW, right? Because there weren't many BMWs back then. So yeah, when I had the opportunity to add service, it became focused more on BMW.
Okay. So you rode around with your uncles in Lebanon and realized they were...
And then one of them taught me on a 2002 Ti to drive in the mountains. That was like one of my probably, a very good lesson on how to drive without, now we have anti-rollback devices in cars. But you're in the mountains working the pedals, trying not to stall it with like some steep inclines. So yeah, that's very memorable.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, over here we kind of focus on the general service. You have alignment machines, you have some tire equipment, we have, all the diagnostics. But the guys over here do some pretty serious stuff. We tend to do what the dealers don't want to do or can't do. So a lot of times, you have an engine issue and you go to the dealer and they say, ouch. So, when they say ouch to the dealer, they come to us. A lot of times we could find the right solution for less cost.
Okay. And
probably that's why we're more popular.
Yeah. Okay. So this is not the tuning shop, but you end up working on a lot of the higher performance vehicles here.
We have what we call the race shop. And, in the race shop, we do everything that's aftermarket performance to proper race cars. We build them roll cages and, whatever else, bumper to bumper service. That's always been our thing. It's like bumper to bumper service on any BMW.
Nice.
So you could see like traces of, you know, the BMWs going back into a little bit of history. I owned and drove a Porsche, so there's some Porsche stuff. That's why you see like a little old Porsche poster over there.
Yeah. You like the German engineering.
German engineering, yes. And John was,
Hey, John.
John's been with us for over 15 years, but John had a shop where he was Porsche specialty for a while doing restorations. That's how we met.
Nice.
I actually did Porsche restoration, like on the old, what they call the bathtubs, the 356s and the 911s. That's how we met.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice
30 plus years ago.
30 plus, we're not admitting that.
Yeah.
Right.
But we're only like 40 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
And then over here, you can see that logo. That was a pretty cool logo. For a while we ran with that. But in the early days, this picture here, you'll get to see this car. It's a tube frame car that I built in the mid-90s. So it started racing in 96, 97. That was with SCCA. And then we went to World Challenge. So we built the first E46 in racing anywhere on the planet. This is a 323i, and this was a 2.5 liter. This is a slick top, meaning no sunroof car. And we found it in Rochester, bought it, put it on a tow truck, brought it down, never got titled, drove it around the block one time, and 2 months later it was a race car.
Sweet.
So.
Now, is that you driving the race car up there?
That car is actually a street car. That car is called, as you can see, Baby. Simeon Makridis was the owner of that car, and he wanted to have the first manual 7 Series in this country. So we got to, you know, give him his wishes. Plus, we also supercharged it. We did cylinder head work. We basically took that engine as original, was less than 400 horsepower. And when we were done, it was making, you know, 550 to 600. And it was manual, so it was fun. But the picture that you see there, Simeon and a few of his friends decided that they wanted to do the one lap of America. And you can actually see the one lap. I don't know if you can zoom in, but you see like the number 62. But now the one lap of America is a really big thing now, even more than before. But yeah, that car competed. I think it competed in like 2000 or 2001, so it was like over 20 years ago.
Cool.
So we'll go through here. Here's some of our customers over the years. So you can see this one here. This one, Matt, was doing Brackham, was doing rallies, domestic. This is road race circuit. This car is still being driven, but it's being driven at like BMW drivers education events. And this did that Targa, Newfoundland for quite a few years with a couple of our good customers.
And you guys had rally, right? You had your own like rally team.
We had in Lebanon, I built a car, started building it like 93, got it ready for the 94 season, and we ran 94, 95, 96 in FIA. And that was the Middle East Championship Series. And in 96, we finally got everything right, and the driver won they called it the F2, which was the front wheel drive class championship in 1996 in the Middle East.
Does that have anything to do with Dakar?
Similar, it's still FIA, but yeah, the Dakar is more, you know, more like buggies and desert and, you know, from country to country, whereas the rallies tend to be a series of hill climbs. So when you hear the word hill climb, it's usually just one section, and the rally's got 15, 18, 20 segments and goes for like 3 days.
Okay.
So you can fix the car in between stages, but you can't, if you break down in a stage, you're done. So we built a car that was reliable. It never fell out of competition, but you know, you have to be really, really good at it. You have to have good reliability, a really good smart driver. And so in 1996, Carlos Abujode was his name. He actually won the championship in that car in the Middle East.
Cool, congrats. Yeah, I'm a dirt bike guy, so I'll pay attention to the Dakar and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's neat.
So a little bit, you know, some people just send us stuff. Like that's not something we did. We had a customer just do that, send it to us. And we've also been involved with Mastercam for a lot of years. I started using Mastercam in 2000. When I bought my first CNC machine. So the first CNC machine I bought was a Haas VF2. And everybody said, oh, it's very easy, and I wasn't a machinist, and I wasn't a programmer. Like, oh yeah, you can program with the control, and I would just stand there. I'm like, you know, so some of the parts we make, they're pretty complicated and have a lot of features. At that time, we started with the CNC equipment. We actually started doing these floor mount adapters here, and we still, this is a big thing for us. So we make these floor mount adapters that are designed to, you take the factory seat out and you bolt this in, and then it allows you to put in side brackets like those up there, and then you can put in an aftermarket race seat. Literally in a half hour it could be installed in your car. No drilling, no welding, no cutting, everything is just direct replacement.
Cool.
So this is what started it, but you know, imagine, I mean, yeah, you could be a really good programmer and say that's cake, I'll program that. But when you're...
By hand?
I mean, you know, we're doing like 2 pieces at a time, and you're going to pick all your points and everything like that. So
Yeah. That's the job for CAM
So I
software.
said, you know what, it's got to be. And then I looked at a couple of different ones, and I like the simplicity of the Mastercam and the flexibility and the ability to grow. So we rolled with them, and we're still Mastercam users.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah, and here is the front office, kind of where our administrative girls work, and we can walk out and go around to the race shop.
Cool. Here's
So
more of the BMWs you're telling me about.
Yeah, yeah. This is a car that's a pretty cool car. Now the customer hasn't been around. We don't know what happened to him, but this car actually has air jacks in it, and it was built it's a supercharged, like 600 horsepower, and it's a non-M3, but it has the M3 engine in it. So we do, you know, specialty stuff. You can see the flares and all that stuff on it. From, you know, old to new, we're probably the only company that can handle anything from old to new. There's not many shops that can work on the older cars and also know how to work on the new cars. So that's
there's one of the new M series right there. Huh?
Yep, that's one of the newer ones. And so this is the machine shop sign is still up here. The only thing that's in here that's machine shop related is still just a Bridgeport, you know, knee mill and a lathe for small stuff when they're in the race shop, but the machine shop, as you'll see, has been relocated to Hainesport, New Jersey.
How long was the machine shop here?
Machine shop was here, when it started as Milano Engine and Machine, and it was an engine building shop. And then when I bought it in 1997, we started the transformation, we modernized it, even for the engine building stuff, we started modernizing it. And then, like I said, we put a VF2 in here, and the VF2 sat where this 2002 is sitting. Talk about 2002s. So right now, this shop is more, you know, crates come in, we put them here. There's core engines that need to either be built or used later on for building. So before we moved, you had an M560V Okuma here, a TL1 lathe, and then the Integrex I100. Bartak sat over there. And then on this side here, we had the Centroid, and you'll get to see that equipment, and then some, because with the additional space, we actually have since added a Grobe, added a Mazak HCN 5000, added another Mazak lathe.
Nice.
Instead of, you know, basically a Terret lathe for faster work. We do a lot of parts that are so simple that it doesn't make sense to do them on proper mill turns.
Don't need to put them in a Grobe.
Yeah, yeah, or in the Integrex, because, you know, the Integrex doesn't have a lower turret, and for those that don't know, when you have a mill turn, your cycle times can drop when you're doing complex parts, but when you're doing simple parts, your cycle times grow.
Right.
Because the tool change time.
Right, okay. Yeah, just flipping a turret to the next station is, what, a half a second versus a...
Versus 10, 15 seconds, depending on...
Yeah, the index, the tool changer, and all that stuff.
So when we come in here, you'll see, like, this is a wide-body E46 M3. That's the car that I showed you just a little bit earlier. That's the car that was red. If we open up the doors, you'll see that the jambs are blue, because that's the color that it evolved into. And we ran it as a blue car for a lot of years. And then when we started working with Sarah Tizet, we wrapped it Sarah Tizet. This car was actually featured at the Sarah Tizet booth at IMTS.
Oh, cool.
This
past year?
The last IMTS.
Oh, neat. I might have seen it then. So do you race this car?
I do. Yeah, yeah. Some people, like ask me if I race. Yeah, I've been racing, and again, that picture where I showed you that tube frame car, that was me driving it. So I became a licensed racer in 1996. But I was doing drivers events since like 1992. So I have, what is it now, 33 years of on-track experience.
Yeah. So these guys are working on it now. What are they?
We're
getting ready
doing
for a race weekend or something?
Yeah, we did some upgrades on the brake system, and this will give you a better idea. So we're gonna take it down. There's a BMW Club race weekend. We're probably just gonna do some testing with it. We made brake modifications, and they're making some seat changes. So
this is like a what do the Europeans call it? Like a touring car
yes.
racing?
Yeah, this would be more like touring car racing. And this is, we'll run BMW Club, and it'll also run NASA, which is the National Autosport Association. In this area, we have NASA Northeast, so that's kind of our home base. And we'll take it to New Jersey Motorsports Park. That's our home track at this point. That's 50, 55 minutes from here, not very far. And then if we walk this way, you'll see when I was saying bumper to bumper, this is an E46 M3. Everything was done in-house, cage, engine rebuild, transmission that's going in, brake upgrades. You could see all the bump steer kits, like this is all our manufacturing.
Oh, these are your products?
Yeah, that's
I guess you got
products.
the VAC logo right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Sweet.
So a lot of the suspension pieces end up being VAC pieces, like right underneath here. There's bearings in there that we manufacture. These control arms we manufacture. There's these Öhlins are obviously, we don't make dampers, so this is one of the better brands in dampers. We offer Öhlins and JRZ as our main ones. What else? Like I said, the whole cage, all the fabrication is all the painting as well. Like that was painted in-house. And
beautiful.
yeah,
nice work.
Yep. See if there's any. So some of the features that we incorporated are like jack points. So this goes up and ties into the roll cage. This way, when you have to jack it up, you just jack up at one point and you can lift the whole side up balanced. You don't have the car tipping.
Right.
Yeah. So after the clutch is going to go in next. After that, drive shaft, and then it'll go. The paintwork's going to be last.
So this is for a specific race series?
This is for a customer who wants to get into doing more serious track events. So they want to end up building a second car. So it's father and son, or father and sons. And they just want to be able to go, put it on a trailer, get there, have a reliable car, have fun, load it back on the trailer, and go home.
Sweet.
We increased the size on the E46 M3 on the front. And then, so everything gets changed. It's a better rotor, better everything. But, usually when you're, quite contrary to what people think, when you're doing performance work in race cars, you need more front braking than you do rear braking.
Sure.
Too much rear braking starts making the car, become very loose under braking. So you start to spin and whatever. So usually you don't have to increase the rears, you have to increase the front, because when you're transferring all the load to the front.
Right, all that deceleration puts it forward.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's a way bigger brake system than
Yeah, and heavier duty components, right? So this particular kit gives you a better caliper, but you still use factory rotors because you don't need more diameter.
Sure.
Actually, on this car here, on the touring car, this ran in World Challenge touring car, but on this touring car, that's a completely VAC built kit that uses a Willwood caliper. What we actually did is we shrunk the diameter a little bit because we wanted to reduce the moment of inertia and to be able to get better acceleration.
All right.
So on that particular car, we don't need e-brake. We gutted all the e-brakes and everything like that, and we just made a smaller kit for the rear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you, maybe you didn't even need to do this, but you could increase the clamping force of the piston and then reduce the size of the diameter of the calipers.
Yep.
To get the same braking.
Reduce the rotor diameter, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Because again, when you're moving along at whatever speed, like depending on the racetrack, a lot of these cars can only get to about 140, 150 maybe before you run out of, you know, straight,
Right.
and then you have to slow down for a turn.
Right.
So most tracks with these cars, 140 to 150 is considered a good speed. And when you're moving like that and you get on the brakes, everything shifts to the front. So the fronts have to be big.
Right.
Over here, unfortunately,
Yeah.
this is the VAC BMW G80 M3. So this car was built really for trade advocacy and for manufacturing advocacy. So when you look at this car, this was featured at East Tech this year. And after East Tech, I took it to a Gossiger event in Exton. And on the way back, we got a tornado warning. And, you know, on the drive back, I guess I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And a huge tree branch, luckily not the whole tree, but a big branch came down, big limb came down right across the windshield when I was driving.
Jeez.
So I'm moving at
you could
35, 40 and took an impact. And yeah, there's pictures. If you look inside, there's still glass. That's after vacuuming it out. You could still see glass on the dashboard.
Oh, yeah.
But I called 911 and there was nobody there, so I kind of had to MacGyver it back.
So you just drove back in the storm?
Yeah, actually there's a video out there on the VAC YouTube channel that shows the drive back and trying to get out of that area and the big mess, all the back
Jeez.
roads.
No, none of the airbags went off, right?
No, luckily no airbags
Yeah.
went off. But
Yeah.
I mean, if I wasn't, you know, these glasses, I only need them as readers, but I bought these glasses that I can keep on wearing and not have to go on and off like readers. So luckily when I took the impact, these were on because I had glass all in my hair, all over me. It was crazy. It was,
Right. Yeah, that could have been really
So
bad.
yeah, we found a little quiet area where there were no big trees, kind of let the storm calm just a little bit, and then I decided we're going to document it. So I shot a 34-minute video as we tried to find our way out of the hood.
Okay.
It was a very good neighborhood, but it felt like, you know, when you're watching, you know, Lord of the Rings or whatever, and you see like the trees talking and
Right.
moving, that's kind of like that eerie feeling that I had.
Right.
Just as I'm driving, trees just swaying, and the hole wasn't this big. It became bigger because I drove it on the highway to get it back home. It took me from time of impact to the time I got it back to the shop, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
And you probably had glass spraying on your face going down the highway?
Well, what I had to do is, luckily, I do a little treatment on the windshields. I do a window tint on the inside, but I just kind of do it like a visor. So when it took the hit, that kind of delaminated. So I used that, and I kind of held up the glass with the tint. So I was keeping water and keeping glass from coming in while I was driving.
Jeez.
But, you know, the disclaimers, do not try that at home.
Right. Cool car, though.
Yeah, so I mean, I really, you know, for next season, we're going to get it repaired, obviously. And we're going to go out, and you could see some of the sponsors, you know, currently. And this vehicle is open to anybody. It's not exclusive to one manufacturer because it really is for the trades. Like, this probably would have been at Stevens for the Haas event that's coming up at the end of the month. If the car, I don't think it can be ready, but, you know, that's where it would have been. It's meant to go out to the trade schools. It's meant to go out to like IMTS and just try to get young kids into the trade. It's difficult to hire because there's not enough people out there.
Yeah, can you talk to that a little bit? Like, how do you deal with that? Do you do your own, like, internal training or stuff, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, when you get people, you have to find, you know, you have to make the time to train. And you kind of have to be, at this stage of the game, not expecting too much. Because the people that are talented, there's not as many as there used to be, so they're in higher demand. It's kind of like when you're watching sports. The pay rate in sports is pretty high because, you know, there's a few good guys and everybody wants them. So that's what's happening in our industry. And so when you get somebody young, you have to have the ability to teach, to train, and you have to be patient. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. It's kind of like the Grobe, what Grobe does. I know a lot of the major German manufacturers, they do, internships, or they call them apprenticeships, right? So it would be nice. I don't expect anybody to work for free. We were actually working with like different universities, Rowan University and Drexel, and bringing in some interns. And that worked out good for a while. Then when COVID hit, those programs kind of fell apart a little bit. So it's been difficult, but we were doing like 2 interns a year, 2 interns a semester, or at Drexel they do 6-month internships. So we were doing like 2 interns, 2 students every semester.
Cool.
We did that for a while, but that program's not been working well for us recently.
Seems like the manufacturing has gained a lot of traction in popular conversation in the last 6 months or whatever. So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
And, like, I even listened to some real popular podcasts and heard them talking about CNC machining. I was like, geez, I never thought you'd hear that. But
so like if you're into sports, and I'm into sports as well, not just racing, but obviously being a Philadelphia local, I'm into my Phillies and Eagles, so I'm listening to WIP a lot. And often I hear them talk about CNC. They're actually doing advertising. Kravitz is doing advertising and talking about how to clean your sump, and and we'll come in and they provide those services. But did you ever think you're going to hear anything manufacturing related on sports radio?
No.
I never thought.
Right.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's encouraging.
We'll make some headway, and hopefully again, you can look at the brands. You'll see Haas on here. You'll see Okuma. You see Mazak. You see Grobe. There's no exclusivity. You're going to see, you have Heimbuch and you have others. And
we get Campro on here.
Yeah. I mean, we're open to everything, because basically whoever wants to support manufacturing, I think, is going to want to support this. And at IMTS, AMT, they were pivotal, in getting us to space, and they loved the fact that we're out there trying to encourage students and the younger generation into the trades.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
You gotta show your YouTube channel there.
Yeah, so we have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, and I'll link it in here.
Yeah, that's all available.
Now, we talked a lot about BMWs and a little bit about Porsche. You're a big European guy. What do you think about muscle cars? Do you ever work with muscle cars and stuff?
If we were to go outside, I can actually take the cover off of a 69 Olds 442 that I still own, a convertible.
Okay.
So yeah, like I said earlier, like in the earlier years, I worked on a lot of muscle cars in high school. Me and a bunch of friends had muscle cars, the Mustangs and the Camaros. And so when we get to the Jersey facility, you could see some of my muscle car era came back to me in the form of a 2018 GT350R. So you'll see that over there.
I'll take it for a spin.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So you don't discriminate. You're just into cool cars.
That's it.
Nice.
I'm probably one of the few guys that can work on just about anything you throw at me.
Right, yeah. I feel like most people would be siloed. Not that I'm a big car guy or anything, but yeah.
That's the way it typically is now. Especially people want to be able to say, hey, I'm a specialist of this. Well, we cater to a lot of specialists. We sell a lot of parts, a lot of pistons and rods, and so our focus, I guess the concept of my business when I started selling parts and started the website and all that stuff in the very early 2000s, it's because I'd made a phone call to somebody who was selling, and I said, can we get a discount? And they said, no, you just buy at website price. There's no discounts for shops. I said, okay. So I just figured I'll fix that. Because when you're in business, everybody needs to make money.
With BMWs, what is your least favorite mod that people will often do to a BMW?
I'm not big on, like, we won't do them. When people want to put lights on them and decorative wings, like everything we do, we want to be functional. So if we do any aero work, if it's splitters, if it's wings, we want them to be functional. We're not, I mean, obviously we'll install an exhaust system for somebody, but that at least sounds good.
Yeah.
But I would say just the looks.
You're not a bling guy.
No bling, and if somebody comes in wanting to do that hella look, where their wheels are like that, it's all fundamentally, wrong from the physics perspective, we will not touch those.
You don't support the bad engineering practices.
That's pretty much it.
Right. Cool. Is there any like bucket list cars projects that you haven't done, like car builds that you have on the list?
I keep on thinking right now, like my 69 Olds 442 needs a restoration. That would be good for my kids to get a lesson on. But I mean, from something newer, I think I wouldn't mind doing, I get encouraged. And if you look at that gray E30 M3 over there right now, that's kind of just sitting there. That's basically restored, needs to get back together. But we have a nice t-shirt that shows those with like V8s or inline 6. And I think starting to do those, and I get requests, I'm just not ready to do it. You've heard of like the Singer Porsche. Like there's a company called Singer, and they're basically resto mods. So the resto mod market's a big market.
Yep.
So I get pushed a lot, and I'm getting closer and closer to doing something.
Yeah.
So I think that would be interesting to do, and it would be nice to do one in the E30 M3, since that's the first M3.
Right.
That would be a really nice resto mod.
So there's probably a lot of guys that have money now that didn't have money for their dream car when they were a kid, right? And they want to put better brakes on them and drive the car that they were dreaming of forever.
They matured, they have better jobs, they have more money. When BMW started making turbo cars, they graduated to that level. And it's good for us, the old school BMW guys. It's still kind of not our thing. I mean, obviously we take care of everybody, but that's not our thing. Our thing is, we don't like to blow things up. A lot of those guys have brought their purchasing ways in, so that allowed a lot of product to come in from China. Everything we do is made in USA. That's it, period. So if we don't have your price point, I'm sorry, you can find it somewhere else.
Right.
But we are a made in USA and build it as best as we can build it type of company.
Nice, cool. Has the China, has that been a big challenge for you guys? Like, will they knock parts off and undercut prices? Can you speak to that at all?
If there's volume, this is why remaining a niche company is important. If there's volume for them, they'll copy it. But if they don't think they can sell 1,000 or whatever, they're not going to do it. So like our floor mount adapters, that piece that I showed you for installing race seats, domestically it's been knocked off, but it's not been knocked off by China.
Gotcha. Now, what are your thoughts? I don't want to go in any kind of political direction here, but what are your thoughts on like tariff policy in general? Do you think it's good to kind of try to keep China at bay with that stuff, or?
I would just challenge anybody and everybody to look at all sides.
It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, because, if you just answered right off the cuff, you're going to say, yeah, that's going to help. But when everything increases, when your raw materials increase, when the cost of living increases, so is the cost of production again. So you basically put a line of defense in, but at the same time, you're escalating internal costs, which is going to drive the cost of finished goods. I know certain markets are going to benefit big time. I mean, the military, obviously, when you're looking at aerospace and that stuff, those markets benefit from laws like this. But on a lower, smaller level, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference.
Right.
You'd almost have to put a 400% tariff to really make a difference. A 20-25% it's not going to change it much.
Yeah, I've heard that talking to other manufacturers, like even with the highest percent tariffs, China was still beating them, and it's crazy.
You can't compete. You do the math. Again, you do the math. You look at our material costs have gone up, the cost of production has gone up, our utilities have gone up. When you factor all that, if everything, I mean, realistically, over the last 2 years, we've probably seen at least 20% increases across the board.
Yep.
So you take that, you take a $200 product, it's now $240 if we're going to use an example. Well, that $200 product they're making in China and shipping it over as finished goods. Before the tariffs, it probably somewhere around $50 or $60. So you put 50% on them, it's now $90. It's still $240 versus $90.
Right.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
The mindset has to be changed. It just has to be, we refuse to support that, or the companies that are selling the goods are going to say, we only want to sell the good stuff. That's why we're not changing our stance. We manufacture it here, we make it here, and that's what we want to sell.
Yeah. And we got bring in technology to increase our competitiveness, which I know we're going to get into later, but
Yeah.
you guys have a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the mill turns are good for that. Automation's going to help with that. I still, you know, I think about this. I probably lose sleep at night, you know, enough nights thinking about it. I just don't see that we're ever going to be able to cut them out because we're so good and we're so competitive.
Right.
Because, you know, the labor,
Right.
what you pay here is not what they pay there. And that's the biggest contributor to the cost.
Yeah. You have any just like favorite car memory moments, like maybe something from your childhood, racing cars or anything?
I mean, you know, racing cars, there's really like one really good one that we can talk about. But if I want to talk about more from like high school years,
yeah, whatever sticks out the most.
Yeah, I mean, to touch on the memories of the muscle cars. There was a group of us that, you know, whether it was Chevy SS, convertible, like there was a group of us that had convertibles, and that, you know, just out of high school or even during high school, we would just all on Friday nights gather up and we would hightail it to Wildwood, to the shore. Everybody with their rack tops down. And for me, it was that Sony radio I had in that Olds 442 and playing Dire Straits.
Good memories.
Yeah, yeah. So that one still sticks, you know, sticks with me.
Yeah.
This is where the parts department was. Shipping bay was out of here. Packaging, and then over here in this area we had shelving for head gaskets and then pistons and whatever. So although it's a small area, we had it packed tight, like to the ceiling, and even on the top up there, you know, we had stuff. We were able to store a lot, but technically it wasn't very efficient.
Right.
You know, so you had to be smart. The slow movers went up high, and the common stuff was where you can access them quickly. But when we get to the new facility, you'll see what that's about, and that kind of changed the game. It's a game changer for us.
Cool.